So we're very grateful to have Georgia Belle Leeman with us today and to interview her for our Old Bristol Historical Society, for our ongoing library and digital library for the actual Historical Society. So thank you, Georgia Belle, so much.
You're welcome.
And we have her son, Scott, with us as well.
And he was so anxious for me to do it.
Okay. So my name is Bob Ives. I'm the president of the Old Bristol Historical Society, and I'm just delighted to be able to ask Georgia Belle all these questions.
I would rather have you do it, Bobby, than anybody.
Thank you. Great. So just for the record, would you share your full name, when you were born, and where you were born, Georgia Belle?
My name is Georgia Belle Leeman, and I was born in 1931. And I was born in my grandfather's house, down on the trail at Pemaquid Beach. I mean, not the trail, the Huddle Road.
Oh, yes, okay, the Huddle Road.
Yeah, I was born down there.
And you were born in the house?
Yep.
How wonderful. Could you tell me a little bit about your parents?
My mother and father was Esther Prentice, was my mother. Kenneth was my father. And, they were married in, I don't know, maybe 30.
In 30, okay. And where were they born?
My mother, I think, was born in South Bristol.
Okay.
And my father...
her maiden name was?
Prentice.
No,
her mother. Oh, her mother was Spear.
Spear, okay. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Pearl and Florence Spear were her parents.
And she was Elaine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's where we get.
There's a relation here.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And how far back can you remember any other relatives that you have? Who's the oldest individual you can remember or that you know about in your family lineage? Do you go back to George Washington?
I wish I could. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I can't think.
Well, you knew your grandparents.
Oh, yeah, I knew both sets of grandparents.
Okay, yeah.
Pearl and Florence Spear, as I spoke of. And Steve and Florence Prentice.
Yeah.
Lived in Bristol Mills.
Okay, yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. And
So you know anybody? Yeah.
Yes, I knew Grammy's mother.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah, Graham Weeks. I knew her, and she lived in that little cape right with the Bristol Post Office.
Oh, where Priscilla is.
Where Priscilla is, yeah.
Okay.
Were there any stories that they related that you remember? Any just traditional old stories or things that they said, a personal note?
Boy, I can't, Bob. I wish I could. Okay. I've thought of it so many times since, of things I wish I'd asked, you know?
Exactly.
And I go to think of something I want to ask somebody, and there's nobody left.
No, yeah. What did your parents do for a living?
My father started out working for his father, who had an electrical business, and they sold Delco. What up were those? Power plants. Generators. They started that, I think, in the town of Bristol. And Grammy was a seamstress. She sewed for everybody in town.
Wow.
She used to sew for Tenafly Weavers, all their bags and all that stuff.
Sure.
And my mother used to work with her a little, helped her. And they lived up on the Upper Round Pond Road. Mm-hmm. Loved that house.
Oh, wow.
A nice old house. Mm-hmm. Spent many a time.
Chris Hall lives there?
Oh, sure. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, what a beautiful house.
Yeah.
They bought that house for $250, and they borrowed the money from Norman Kelsey, the stonemason. Amazing.
Amazing.
My grandfather told me that.
And imagine Dad borrowing money from Norman Kelsey.
That's why he went, because he had money, and he borrowed, that's how it was done.
Of course.
He had half, and his brother had half, Keith. And, of course, Keith had about, I don't know how many children, what, 10? Yeah. And, of course, when my father was there, it was just me, I guess, then.
Right.
And so they moved out and moved to Pembroke Beach for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then they bought a house on Snowball Hill.
Oh,
Lived up there near Arlene, right across the street from Arlene right now.
right, right.
And my mother had a shop, a jewelry shop. No, well, it was kind of
Gift shop?
gift shop type on in Damascotta for a while.
Mm-hmm.
She worked for Ethel's dress shop for years, and she worked for Centers. She was a buyer for Centers in Brunswick.
What?
She used to go with Mr. Center to New York to get
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Oh.
And but Dad, after New Harbor, he moved to Damascotta.
Oh, I see.
They moved up there, lived on Hospital Hill for quite a while,
Oh.
and then quite a while after he had the business in Damascotta, they built a house on the Bristol-Damascotta line.
I remember when they did.
Yeah,
That's right.
and they loved that house.
Mhm.
And then Dad wasn't in very good health, and the cold weather really bothered him.
Mm-hmm.
And so they sold everything here and moved to Florida.
Oh, right, right.
They were down there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was 88 when he died,
Okay.
and my mother was 93.
Georgia Belle, what did your father do?
He was electrician, plumbing, and heating. And he had many crews. He hired a lot of people around town. A lot of people worked for him, a lot of guys. I've heard him say, "Oh, I worked for your father." And then after that, he moved it to Damascotta. And he put a store on Main Street in Damascotta. And that's when they moved up there.
That's where Fernals is now.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what's his
Yeah.
shop.
And and of course my mother had the shop then. Then
So his father was an electrician, among the earliest electricity, I mean, the beginning, and he ran the powerhouse in Bristol Mills, correct? I remember.
right. Mm-hmm.
Because he used to walk the penstock, the pipe, all the way from the opening, the end of it, all the way up as far as he could go in the dam until his lamp went out, is what I was told.
Really?
Because the O2 level was getting low enough, the lamp would go out to inspect.
Well, I'll tell you, I walked it many times.
Inside or outside?
Really?
When we were kids at Grammys, we always walked up there
In it or?
on it and swimming right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Georgia Belle, did you, when you were young, did you go to church or belong to any kinds of social groups of any kind?
Well, I got married quite young, you know. So I really didn't. After I was married, because I went to the Round Pond Church. But no, not when I was in New Harbor. And I belonged to the Girl Scouts when I was in Bristol Mills with Dorothy Cameron. That's about the only thing I did.
Now, when you moved to Round Pond, you guys lived on the old family farm.
Mm-hmm.
You and Dad and Buster
Mm-hmm. And Lila.
and Lila.
Up on Crick Hill.
Yep.
It was on the Moxie Cove Road.
And I believe Dad said at one point there were 16 dogs.
Yes, he did. Do you really want to know that
They were
stuff?
pretty big on hounds.
They were big on hounds. We lived over there 4 years. They were coon hunters,
Oh,
and they raised coon dogs.
And so what year was it you made the big move to the village?
Brenda started school, so she must have been about 6,
52 to 53?
probably.
Because Dad always told me the hill was non-negotiable in the winter. You couldn't live, it was too isolated to live over there. You had to move into town for her to be able to get to school, to get on the bus, right?
Oh, Therese Richard, Mabel Poland used to drive the school bus.
Yep.
And she came over for a while. We were over there a little bit.
But that hill in the winter, though, couldn't do it, is what
We
he
went
told me.
upside down on that hill many times.
Yeah. He said hanging out over the edge of the bridge. Yeah. So
But it wasn't the easiest place to live.
tell me about your schooling. Start with the earliest you can remember, and
Well, I went to the Bristol Mill School.
well,
You want to know all? You want to know all about it?
I do.
Well, I went to school there till I don't know how old I was,
So
but
which
that's the one that
the
burned.
one that burnt by the
Yeah,
License Hall?
I watched it from Grammy's house burn.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
By the firehouse.
yeah.
And do you remember any of your teachers who were there?
Seems to me Ella Poole was. Let me think, who else would have been? I don't remember other than that.
And in Bristol Mills, how many would be in your class at that time?
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, probably 10,
10, yeah.
I would say probably. But what I was going to tell you, the funny part is, if you want to know it, the lice was going around.
Oh,
And I had straight hair that came down to here. And my mother, honest, had the worst time with that. I remember that well from the Bristol Mill School. That's about all I remember from that. But I don't remember the teachers. Maybe it was Ella Poole.
she did teach. I think
Yeah.
it was in the high school, though.
Was she in high school?
I think she was at the Bristol High School at some point.
Well, who else would it have been? It would have been, maybe it was, no, she taught in Bristol over around Pond.
I don't think Ella Poole ever taught at the high school level.
Oh, she didn't.
Not that I know of.
She taught us though.
Oh.
In the 5th grade.
We had her in the 5th grade.
Oh, in the 5th
We
grade.
had her.
Oh,
Think
okay.
about that.
Okay. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite a career.
Okay. And who were your closest friends when you were going to school?
Well, Marielle and I were about as close as you could be.
That's your.
That was my closest.
That's your aunt?
That's my aunt.
Okay.
You knew Mariella.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And I stayed at Grammy's so much that she and I were very close.
Mm-hmm.
We had more fun
Wow.
in that house up there.
And growing up, what kind of things did your mother teach you? Did she teach you to cook? Did she teach you to sew?
Oh, Lord, I cooked and I did housework. I learn how. I was the oldest.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm the one that got to do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
I had a sister who was 3 years younger and a brother. How much younger was Ken? Quite a lot younger.
Yeah, I'm not sure. 9 years, something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Wow.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Quite a lot younger. They're both gone now.
Yeah.
They died, both of them.
Yeah.
So I don't have anybody left, really.
And when you were growing up, were there any special meals that you loved in particular that your mother would cook?
I remember one I didn't like. Was corn chowder. She was going to have corn chowder. I was going to have something else. Oh, I don't know. My mother was a wonderful cook.
Oh, wow.
So I liked about everything she had
Sure.
cooked, you know. But I know that was one thing I didn't like, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
What are baked beans?
Oh, her beans go so wonderful.
Still make those.
Yeah, I make those.
And their butterscotch pie.
Oh, that's the one thing, yes, butterscotch pie. She made the best butterscotch pie.
How wonderful.
And those recipes survive.
Yep, he makes the butterscotch pie, and he makes beans too.
That's wonderful. And how would you celebrate Christmas?
Well, you know, that's kind of a difficult situation
Huh.
because we'd have to go one place, one part of the day, and the other.
Oh,
But
yeah.
every single day of my life until they were gone, my grandfather and grandmother Spear came before we were even up
Oh, really?
to spend Christmas with us. Until they were gone, they always spent Christmas with us in the morning, and then we go to Grammy's later on.
I see, yes, right.
But my grandfather thought I was special.
That's wonderful. And how about Thanksgiving or some of the other holidays? Were they about the same or?
Well, we used to go to my mother's a lot. you know, after I was married, we went to what are you doing? You break something? We went to my mother's for Thanksgiving usually after we were married.
Yeah, I remember pretty big gatherings there in Damascus. There'd be 4 generations of us there at their table. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
That is just
Yeah,
beautiful.
because her parents would both be there, and them, and
Yeah, Nanny and Bum would be there, and Mom and Dad,
4 generations there.
and all my family would, you know, be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I miss that.
Yeah.
I do miss that Thanksgiving. I think that more than Christmas.
Where did your family do most of its grocery shopping or shopping in general?
Well, at New Harbor it was Riley's.
Of course, yeah.
And I have to tell you a little story about that, and it should be taken out. But Betty Ann, of course, lived across the street. And she'd go over to my mother and she said, "Don't you need anything at Riley's?" And so she'd go over to Riley's with my mother and buy groceries. Other than that, Bobby, probably at Riley's mostly.
So she was
Yeah.
interested in somebody that worked there.
You're right.
Oh.
Reggie.
That became her husband.
Oh.
See, that's what makes it so funny.
That's why she wanted her mother to go with her Riley.
She'd kill me.
She was looking for something at Riley's too.
She and I were very close, of course, always.
Yes, yeah. Did you ever shop at Penniman's?
Yep,
Okay.
have. Yeah, and yes, that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Lewis's too, right?
Oh yes, Mel Lewis's too. Did you know there was a store down at Pemmican Beach that was Mel Lewis's?
Oh, I've heard of that, yes. Right.
Yeah, we used to.
Over by Gus's.
Sure, right,
Yeah, we did. When we first married, we used to shop there.
right.
Yeah.
And when you were in school, how did they discipline you?
Well, now what do you mean by that, Bob? Could you please explain that a little more?
I'm sure they needed it.
It wasn't to you in particular, but if there were students who got out of order and line, how would a teacher discipline that individual?
I don't really know.
It was good. If you didn't see
I don't
Yeah.
think that, I
it was
don't.
good.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue.
I would be the one that be get the discipline. If not, the teacher wouldn't do it.
Well, if you don't remember it, you could.
I remember I skipped school once, and who should be the first person I saw was my father. He took me back to school.
Where were you?
Well, I was going with Cale and all those guys to Waldemar. Remember they had that bad accident. And I was supposed to be going with them over to Waldemar. We was probably going to Moody's or something.
Really?
And my father took me out of that car and he said, "You're going back to school." Now it's that.
Oh, wow. Right.
Yep.
In-
But I never did that much.
I'm sure that's true.
That was enough.
And in the school, was there ever any teasing or bullying of any kind among
Not like
different
this.
individuals?
No,
Okay. Good.
I didn't think so, ever.
Yeah.
Never.
What would you do in your spare time?
You mean before I was married? This was.
Before you're married, yes. Kind of
We went
growing
roller
up.
skating. Oh, that was the best fun.
Yeah.
Went to the beach, so you know,
Yeah.
we had a good place to spend the summer, you know.
Yeah.
But roller skating was what our main
Yeah.
thing. We had more fun there. And I guess you've heard that before.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Did you ever go out on your grandfather's boat? Have you ever fun?
you know, I don't know that I ever did, Scott.
I've just seen that one picture of it, and I don't even. Other than that.
No, I don't ever went out on Bubba's boat
Mm-hmm.
that I remember.
He was a lobsterman. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. Were there...
They called him Chippy, so nobody probably wouldn't know him by Pearl Spear, but he was Chippy Spear.
Oh. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was a different.
Were there special games that you ever played as a young person? Make believe, or
Tag and all that stuff.
that in school,
yeah.
the
We did.
hopscotch?
Oh, yes, of course. See, he remembers, I don't. Yes. And what else did we play? And croquet. Oh my gosh, she had a wonderful place
Oh, wow.
to play croquet. That was fun. I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's.
Okay. And as you were growing up in the summer, you probably started doing jobs as a young person. At what age do you remember starting to work in the summertime, and what kind of work did you do?
11 years old.
11, wow.
And I worked for Verena Brackett at the Hotel Pemaquid.
Oh, sure, right.
And I had one special man that I took care of down there. I used to wait on him and do everything he needed. And that was Mr. Schaefer. You probably read his books. I don't know, but
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And he came there every summer, spent the summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. They all come there and stayed there a whole summer at the Hotel Pemaquid.
Mm-hmm.
And Verena said if I wanted to work, she'd take me in, so I did.
How perfect.
I stayed down there most of the time.
Okay. And then you worked there 5, 6 summers, or?
Oh, maybe 3.
Okay.
If I can't seem to, I can't tell you for sure about that.
Okay. And when you were growing up with your parents, what would a typical evening be like in the home?
Well,
He came home. She had dinner ready.
my mother, I might have to get it. My mother worked.
Oh, that's right.
Of course.
Which
So both of
all
them
that-
were working.
Right, that's unusual. Not that common, really, at that time.
That-
I'm telling you, I run the household.
She was,
Yeah.
she traveled. I mean, she went out of state.
Oh, sure.
She was gone a lot. Right, wow.
Yeah. And so yeah, I did a lot of the cooking.
Wow.
And I don't think we had television then. We certainly didn't have TV.
Yeah.
Not too much.
When did you get your first television?
God, I can't remember that. I remember we got one when I was at the farm.
You did, okay, after you married.
Yeah. And that would have been, what year would that be, Scott?
40, Brenda was born 47, so yeah, around that time. I don't know, was she born when you were at the farm? Were you living at the farm when she was born?
No, we was living down in Verena
Okay.
at the Pemaquid Beach. We lived in
Okay.
Verena, Teton Leverett's house there.
That's right by Little Beach.
We rented the apartment there
Oh, yeah.
for 4 winters. See, they rented it to some people in the summer, and we were there in the winter.
Okay.
So 2 of those summers we stayed with Ruth and Matt. Down,
Oh, wow.
we lived there with them.
At their house in Round Pond?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
That was his brother and your sister. I didn't know
Yeah.
you knew that. You moved there summers and then back down.
Yep. We did until we moved to the farm.
Okay. Now, as you go into high school, you probably started dating.
A little bit.
When did you start dating? And did that affect your relationship with your parents in any way?
Well, they weren't too happy. Yes, probably. I was probably 15.
15. And what was a date like when you were 15?
Well, we used to go to Lakehurst to the dance,
Oh, nice. Okay.
the movies, often movies,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Bobby Cook was one of my old boyfriends.
Oh, how sweet. And who was the first boy you kissed?
Oh my God.
And you don't have to answer any of these. Please, Georgia Belle.
Well, I wish I remember that.
Oh.
I wish I could remember that. It's been so long ago, you realize I was married 67 years. I don't know. Unless it was Edward Gamage
Oh,
from South Bristol.
how wonderful.
I went out with him a little while.
Okay,
That was before Carol.
okay. And when did you start going out with Carol?
Wasn't long.
So you were telling her the first time you saw him? Where was it? And what was he doing?
Oh, I saw him up to, he was over to, on Grammy's house on the Upper Round Pond Road. He came on his motorcycle. He and Bobby. Bobby Cook wanted to know. He said, "Who's that? Who's that girl there?" He said to Bobby, Carol did. He said, "Gee whiz, I'd like to meet her." So, he did.
Did you ever ride on that motorcycle?
No. My mother and father weren't very pleased about the motorcycle.
Oh, right, right.
That kind of disappeared, the motorcycle.
And how old were you when you started dating Carol?
I must have been 16,
16, okay.
because we got married quite soon after that.
Okay,
We went,
Yeah.
you know,
wonderful.
yeah. And they said it wouldn't last.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, no, it's off and away. Off and away.
as young as as I was, they said, no, that won't last. We were married at my mother's house there,
In your mother's house.
across from Orleans.
And then where did you live when you became married?
On the farm,
Okay.
down the beach, and then up to the farm,
Moxie Cove Road.
Moxie Cove Road, and then I think it was 73.
No, 53.
I mean 53.
Yeah.
When we moved over to
She's
Bristol,
been 5 or 6. That's
over next to Molly Cox.
Yep. The house where she is now.
Oh, wow, okay.
So my sister
Ca-
could go catch the bus to school.
Oh,
Because the
right.
hill in the winter was.
Sure,
You
yeah.
had walked out of there and caught rides to work. You couldn't get on and off that hill by
Right.
automobile in the winter sometimes.
Carol worked at Bath at that time.
Oh, really?
He worked. He
Oh,
took.
he was a Hyde windlass, okay.
He got his master. He got his. What did he get from Hyde Windlass? He was a master machinist.
He was a first class machine.
Yeah.
I think was the
Okay,
one.
right.
And he
And
worked
how long
over
did
there
you work it for Hyde Windlass?
18 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And then they wanted him to work nights. He said, "I never have." That's when Bath took over.
Oh, I see.
Hyde.
BMW bought Hyde during a big expansion,
Oh,
bidding
yeah.
on a contract,
Yeah.
and let him go. And then later on called him back for night shift. And,
Okay, yeah.
He decided to start in business for himself then.
Oh, wow, right.
So he started his paint business.
Okay. So he did the paint business for
Quite a long time.
40 years?
Well, that would have been 70. I'm thinking he got out of Hyde around 72 or something like that.
Oh.
72 or 3. 70. Wow, a long time. 35, 40 years they painted maybe.
Well, if it's 18 years,
Yeah.
he used to work at,
He was at Bristol Machining Gear.
yeah,
Bayshore Machine.
Bayshore Machine.
Damascotta Mills.
hmm
And there was one other one. They did
At Bristol Mills, it was
Bristol Machining Gear, West Avers.
West Davis,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
That's right next. That was next to the
Post office.
So
Yeah.
between Grammy's and the
Yeah.
post office,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a machinist before he went in the service. He was in the Coast Guard,
Oh.
and then he went in there. and He was a machinist in the Coast Guard on a ship, which was kind of handy because he
Wow.
already had some machine tool skill. Machinist skills, and so he was a motorman first class, but he was a machinist as well.
Right, right. Tell me all the different jobs from when you started with Verena in the hotel, but then what jobs did you have throughout your career to become eventually the postmistress of Round Pond?
I didn't do much. I worked at for Dan Thompson.
Oh, really? Oh.
That was a great one. He had a brand new car, and he let me use it to get back and forth to work. Now, believe that. Oh, he's such a nice guy, Dan was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me think. Oh God, I got to think about this.
Sylvania?
Yeah, I was thinking
there
what was before that.
Yeah, anything before Sylvania?
That was, well, I worked for Dan then, and then after that I went to work Sylvania for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And that was when we were out to Dad and Mom's cottage on Biscay, and the phone rang, and it was, who called?
Oh, I don't remember who it was now. Somebody called, you said, and said there was an opening.
Someone, oh, your father. I mean, your grandfather, Clifford, called. And wanted to know if I was interested in trying for the post. I said, no, I would not. I can't do that. That's how much confidence I had in myself. But I said, no, I didn't think so. Well, after we got through talking to him, the whole gang talked me into it.
Wow.
And I went and took the test.
But who else took the test?
You want to pass names? Dad did. I got a better rank than he did.
So it could have been him. She did. I mean, you told me there were other people, but I know he took it.
Yeah, there were others in Rampart,
You
several
everybody,
others.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's Madge Poland and Mabel Poland and
Oh, yeah. And did you all ride over together to Waldoboro?
no.
Oh, yeah.
You mean go to work at Sylvania? You mean?
Yes.
No, I rode with Madge.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I'll tell you, we rode in that car. There wasn't even a windshield wiper on it. I'd have to get out and clean the windshield off. Oh my God, not even a heater.
So what did you do there?
I was on the line that made the status for the.
Oh, yeah.
I started the status. I worked on a line with 4 of us,
Oh, yeah, right.
and but I'm telling you, that was an experience.
Wow.
Riding with Madge. Oh, poor Madge. She worked hard all her life.
Wow.
And let's see. So then I worked there 5 years, and then I took the post office.
So where'd you take that test? Where was that given? Do you have any idea? I don't.
Must have been Bath.
So,
I think Bath for some
You
reason.
told me that. Would have been you went to Bath to take it, right?
Mm-hmm. Probably something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
And then you get the score, and
Yeah, yeah. And
now there was a
Fred Payne let me know.
There was yeah, because the governor, right? Is that right? Fred Payne.
He wasn't the governor.
Oh, he wasn't.
He was the senator.
Oh,
Oh.
senator. Okay.
Oh,
Senator
okay.
then. Okay.
Wow.
And he wrote
Go.
Clifford a note and said he was happy to say that I had gotten the job.
Isn't that wonderful? Just wonderful.
But then I had to go to the whole Bristol committee
Yeah.
that was on the committee and ask if they were happy with me having the job.
I see.
There was Bill Ropes, and they're all gone now.
Oh, yes. Right.
All of them. Bob Search and I had the whole paper there. I should have brought it.
Yeah.
It gives all the names of
Yeah.
who I had to go for the town committee to say that it was all right for me to do it.
Sure.
Had to get their approval.
Yes.
And then you worked there about 5 years, and then you started at the post office? And how did you get to be the postmaster, mistress of the post office?
Now this is one of my favorites.
I think this is the only reason he's been at me.
It's a great story. This is the one.
Well, I had no idea
Yeah.
how do you know how to run the post office? So anyway, I had to go down to Gladys's,
Gladys.
Bryant's,
Right.
and get the stuff for the post office.
Sure.
Which was
Was in a pasteboard box about this big. She passed it to me and said, here. That was it.
Wow. Wow.
I had never been in the post office before.
And how many customers were there in the post office? How many people
At
around
that
Pine?
time, Bobby, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I must have been 100,
100, yeah.
100 or more, you know. And it was pretty quiet, I know that, but it's a good thing because I didn't know what I was doing.
So this is important. On day one, the first day that you were the postmaster, and this is in your house, in a site leased
From the post
from the
club.
postal service of your home. You were the postmaster. You had a helper.
Oh, for the first few days, I had Irene, Keith's wife.
Oh.
She wasn't doing anything, and I said, Irene, you want to come over and just, she'd never done it either.
Sure.
But I said, would you like to come over and just stand by and be with me while I set it up, you know? And so she did.
Wow.
But the first boo-boo I made was Norman Elliott always bought coal by the ton. He came and wanted a money order. Now, I never made out a money order in my life. And naturally, it was wrong. That seems to be the only thing I remember.
Did you ever make any serious mistakes in the post office?
Not that I know of, Bobby.
Okay.
I thought that it had to come out to the penny, you know.
Oh, right.
But boy, I found out in later years it was not necessary.
Oh.
But I bet you saw that it did.
It did.
Yeah.
I did, but I mean, now, my God,
Yeah.
they don't know where the money's going or what it's doing. Oh,
And were there interesting people who came into the post office?
a lot of them, like Bobby Ives
Oh,
and Ruth and Ruth. That's right. And I'm trying to think who did.
Georgia Belle, on a personal note, I don't think we could have survived on Loud's Island without you.
I remember
Took care of
Ruth.
many of our
I
things.
remember Ruth's mother coming over, and she said, "Have you heard from those kids?" And I said, "No, I haven't heard a word." Oh, she said, "You suppose they're?" I said, "Don't worry, they're fine." But she always checked in to see if I'd heard anything from me. Of course, we didn't have all these telephones
No.
and all this communication
Yeah,
then.
you handle all the messages.
She
yeah.
had an island messages to the level, I know, like particularly Marsh Island, that they considered getting a radio.
Oh, yes, right.
There
Right.
was talk of getting a radio for her to be able to communicate with the island, of them getting it for her.
Oh, of course.
But everything went through, there's nowhere else to call, so
Sure.
where did they call? Wherever you were in the world, they called our home.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bill Carvin, that group had quite a lot of calls.
they did.
Tiger and all that, kids and all. I remember those kids out back
Yeah.
painting up that old door. They were going to take it out to Houston. Oh my gosh, they were out in my backyard painting it. Scott has seen the Tiger, haven't you?
No, I haven't seen
Oh,
him.
you haven't
No,
seen him.
Alex, I've seen.
Oh, you saw Alex. Mm.
What do you remember of Bill Coffin or some of those people out there?
Well, you know, I knew Harriet when she was
Yeah.
Harriet.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was strange the way they lived.
It was. Yeah.
They built those little buildings and lived in them out there. And I went out and I was amazed.
Yeah.
I really was amazed at what they had lived with, you know, and the kids had such a good time. All of them.
Yeah.
Bill's kids and hers, they really got along fine. They still do.
Yeah.
They're still friends because one of them died, you know that, yeah. But there was something else I was going to tell you about the post office with Scott. He ran the post office. I was how old? Let's see. I had it about, I think, 3 years. Is that what we figured when you were born?
Yeah.
And he used to sit in the box where I sorted the mail, you know. And people, oh my God, they made so much of him. And they used to go to Cecil's with me when I checked the post office out there.
She had to do at least an annual or biannual inspection of the Loudville post office.
Oh.
So there's actually movie footage. We went down to the shore and got in Cecil's boat and rode to the island.
Yeah.
And she went up and met with Elizabeth and inspected the office.
Counted the stamps and the money.
Coffee and a donut or something.
I was going to say she must have made donuts. For
Oh,
her or
sure.
something.
That was part of her job.
Oh,
And she had obviously you had to report that.
He'd sit on the engine box, and he was about, I'd say 2.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You had to report that and make sure that was inspected, right? In the Loudville office.
But you know, I hardly ever saw an inspector.
Oh.
I kept thinking in the end, I said to Ramona, why haven't we ever seen an inspector?
Yeah.
And when they'd come in, they wouldn't even look at it. You know, they'd come in and say, well, it might be 2 of them.
Sure.
Didn't amount to that much. They didn't think Round Pond was too great, I guess. But no, it was a good job.
Wonderful. Well,
Wonderful. I loved it, but boy, I wouldn't want to do it now.
Well, you did an outstanding job. There's
Well,
no doubt
thank
about
you.
it.
32 and a half years.
Wow, 32 and a half. Wow.
So looking back, one thing that was very interesting, I truly felt I lived in the community center
Mm-hmm.
because if the fire siren blew,
Yep.
right, back then it just blew a siren and the truck took off, the phone would start ringing. Where's the fire? Where's the
Wow,
fire?
yeah, right.
Because then if somebody died, the phone started ringing. Okay, well, who's collecting the money for the flowers? It all came through.
Sure.
Every person that died in Round Pond, I collected money for flowers. I gave them the money.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
It was really neat. It was a
And-
focal point. Everything kind of came right.
I was thinking that a while ago. That, my gosh, that doesn't happen anymore.
No, it's very true.
If anyone died, nobody even knows about it.
Now, during your time with you and Carol, did you go on any holidays out of the country, or where?
Well, we went
Where did
to
you travel to?
we went to Alaska
Wow.
and we went to Hawaii. That was our 2 biggest trips, and I'm glad we did because
Yeah.
he cut to the point where I wouldn't have been able to. But boy, we had a great time. Really did. To Alaska, to Hawaii. That was our 50th
Oh.
anniversary.
Yeah.
And so we really had a great trip. We was gone 2 weeks, wasn't it? And then when we went to Alaska, we went with Richard and Ann Donovan. You remember them?
Yes. Right.
And we were gone a whole month when we went to Alaska. We went everywhere and did everything. We really had a great time. Yeah. Nice. I loved Richard Donovan. He's a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to her once in a while.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yep, on the phone. She's in a home.
Okay. Yeah.
Now-
George Belle, what is one of the earliest memories you have?
Of what?
Of just when you were a little girl, anything that you remember that kind of stands out, that time you might have been hurt or burned or something? No, just,
I remember having my tonsils out.
oh, okay.
You remember Nanny having lockjaw? Was that when were you alive then or not?
Would I what?
She had lockjaw. Was that were you?
That was when I was in the post office.
Oh, is that late? Oh, I didn't realize that late. Okay. Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I didn't know when that was. I didn't know when that was. Okay.
Yeah, I had my tonsils out in Dr. Barry's house. And Millie Millie Barry was the nurse.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I was all ready to have it done, and when they didn't have ether enough, so my mother and Millie Barry had to go to Damerscott and get ether. I never forgot that. I was 6 years old then.
Oh, no, see that, yes. That's wonderful. Just wonderful.
I do remember that. Dear. But I don't know. Is there anything else that you... What do you think, Scott? Is there anything else that's of interest? You must have more
I
questions.
just have a few more.
All right.
Just about 3 more.
All right.
So, one of them is, are there any life lessons that you would offer up to people in general, or life lessons that you would give to your grandchildren? about your enjoyment, your love of life, what would you share with them?
Oh my goodness gracious, that's a hard one, Bobby. I don't know what it would be to you, Scott. I don't see them enough.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I don't see them enough. I did when they were little. When they were little,
Yeah.
you know, I did. I took care of them a lot.
Sure.
If they went to Norway or wherever they were doing, and but after they got any age, they were off to college, and because Mary is, you know, now a doctor,
Yeah, it's amazing.
and so I mean, she's busy. I don't hear from her very much. I hear from Nikki more. She's out in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And she has her own little business.
You got 2 in Canada.
And I got 2 in Canada. Well, 1 in Canada,
Oh,
one in
that's right.
Louisiana.
One in Louisiana, New Orleans.
And a great-grandson,
Yes, okay.
Charlie, he's 6.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, God, he's cute. The trouble is, I don't see him enough.
Of course.
I haven't seen my Canada family for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't like to even think about it. It's been so long. But, no, I'm very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, my kids have been wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. This is a
This-
difficult question to ask of you, but have you ever experienced any deep sadnesses? I know of one in particular.
Yeah, that did me in. I didn't even remember. Bobby, I have to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember the funeral.
Yeah. No,
I didn't,
yeah,
I don't remember a thing.
yeah, yeah.
And, but, of course, I was very close to my grandparents in New Harbor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
My grandfather died very suddenly. He dropped. He had a heart attack, and that was quite a shock to us.
Were you there when he died?
No, I was coming from Belfast,
Okay.
from Bangor. Brenda was in college, and I was coming, and I called home for something, and my mother said that Bumper had just dropped. And that was, he was only 70. You know, he wasn't that old.
Mm-hmm.
Now that after 90. So, you know, that was sad, but, oh, you know, it's been a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. How about
And my father, I'll tell you, that was a hard one. Carol and I went down to be there before he waited till I got there. And that was a very hard one for me.
And on the other side is, what are some of the great joys that you've had in your life?
Well, I don't think I could have.
Sitting right over here.
I know, I understand. Imagine it.
Yeah,
13 years after I had Brenda, I had him.
that's amazing. How wonderful.
And what would I do without him?
Yeah.
I think my grandchildren probably.
Yeah.
I never thought that anybody'd have any. And once they did get going, Brenda was living in Toronto, and Betty Ann and I had been there to visit. And on the way home, I said to her, well, I guess probably they're not going to have any kids at all. I really didn't think they were. And so when I got home, I had a phone call, and she was pregnant. And she had one since, so they have 2 boys.
How wonderful.
Chatty works down in Louisiana. Troy's at home with
Yeah.
Charlie.
Right.
It's I'm very lucky. I've got a nice family, and they've all done very well.
They have done beautifully. Just beautiful.
I mean, when I look around, I think, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I have one more question, and that is there some question I should have asked you that you had hoped that I might ask,
can you
and
think?
that I, would, want you to speak about if you had hoped to kind of talk about anything in particular?
I think we've talked everything over. I don't think we left out too much.
Just for one thing.
What?
Your friends.
Yes.
Who's your best friend?
Well, he knows who that is. Betty Ann.
Yeah.
How long have you
Oh, God, ever since we were young.
Yeah.
Still calls.
Well, we moved to, well,
Isn't
must
that
have been when I was about 10.
Yeah.
At least twice a day.
Yeah.
They still, and that's been how many? Think of how many years? How many years?
She's calling me at 7 o'clock. Well, in fact, this morning it was 5:45. I said to her, hey, I think you're overdoing this a bit. And ever since Carol died, she's called me in the morning.
Well, it seems appropriate that we're interviewing you now because
I
the
know
last
it.
person we interviewed
I know
was
it was
Betty
her.
Ann.
So, but we've had a lot of fun, she and I. We were talking about Sally and Beverly going off shopping and doing these things and running around. She said, do you remember when we used to do that too? I said, yes, I do. I remember one day we went clear up to, oh my God, Rumford, it's beyond Rumford. Up there just to get some, what is it we went after? That was that you use on slates, like. They had a slate mill up there.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we never, Monson,
Yeah.
because it was Jean's family. That Jean, I knew who owned it. And she and I took off that morning, never told us all we was going. We went to Monson, got a load of, went up in the mill there, or what, the hole, where it all was, and got a load and came home with it. She wanted to build a fireplace outside. So we did those things. We used to go to Boston a lot, visit Betty Lee, Partridge, and we went to see the Dodgers a lot. We went when we were younger. We used to go to Dodgers in Boston a lot. Had a good time, and so yeah, we've done. You know, it's been a good life, Bobby.
A lot of antiquing, I recall.
Oh yes, that's one of the best things we ever did do, go antiquing. And in auctions, oh God, that was fun. We did have, that was fun. Yeah, but Carol liked that too.
Of course.
Yeah, he did like that too. But it's been great.
George Belle, thank you so much.
Oh,
Just one
gosh.
of the great bright lights and most wonderful.
You probably have to
lovely
drink out half of it.
We'll come back for chapter 2. But thank you so much.
Well,
So
Scott,
many people
and
will be-
been saying this for quite a long time, and I said, Scott,
It's because of him. He pointed out, and I'm glad he did. It was he knew we needed to capture this. So
It's a
thank you
very
to us.
important time.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You're
for
welcome.
everything
I'm
you shared.
happy to
Scott,
do-
thank you all.
I was a little
Yeah.
worried about it, but I guess I don't keep my mouth shut as much as I should.